Barnabas. Bible verses about Barnabas. List of 25 Bible verses that reference Bible verses about Barnabas. Verse and description. Acts 4:36. Barnabas was a Levite from the island of Cyprus who sold a field he owned and brought the money to the apostles to help the needy. Acts 9:27. Barnabas was sent to Antioch with Paul to teach and encourage the new believers in their faith. Acts 11:22-26. Barnabas was sent to Jerusalem to report on the spread of the gospel to the Gentiles and to bring back Saul, Paul. Acts 11:30. Barnabas and Saul, Paul, were sent to Jerusalem with the offering from the Gentiles for the poor. Acts 13:1-3. Barnabas and Saul, Paul, were set apart by the Holy Spirit for the work of spreading the gospel. Acts 13:50. After being persecuted in Antioch, Barnabas and Saul, Paul, left and went to the cities of Iconium, Lystra, and Derbe. Acts 14:12. Barnabas and Saul, Paul, preached in Lystra and were almost stoned to death by the local people. Acts 15:2. At the Council of Jerusalem, Barnabas and Paul argued that Gentiles should not be circumcised in order to be saved. Acts 15:36-41. Barnabas and Paul disagreed over taking John Mark with them on the missionary journey, so they parted ways. Acts 16:2-3. Barnabas and John Mark set sail for Cyprus and preached the gospel. Acts 18:24. Barnabas visited Paul in Corinth and encouraged him in his ministry. Acts 19:1-2. Barnabas and Paul visited Ephesus and met with the disciples there. Acts 21:8-9. Barnabas and Paul visited Jerusalem and were welcomed by the elders there. Acts 21:17-18. After Paul was arrested in Jerusalem, Barnabas and Paul were released and Paul was allowed to return to Tarsus. Acts 25:1. Barnabas was with Paul at Caesarea when he was summoned before Festus. Romans 16:1. Barnabas is mentioned as a faithful servant of the gospel. Colossians 4:10. Barnabas is mentioned as a faithful companion of Paul. Galatians 2:1. Barnabas was with Paul when they went to Jerusalem to discuss circumcision with the apostles. 1 Corinthians 9:6. Barnabas is mentioned as a fellow worker of Paul. Philemon 1:24. Barnabas is mentioned as a co-worker of Paul. 2 Timothy 4:11. Barnabas is mentioned as a loyal friend to Paul. 1 Thessalonians 3:2. Barnabas is mentioned as a faithful companion of Paul. Hebrews 13:7. Barnabas is mentioned as an example of faithfulness and generosity. 1 Peter 5:13. Barnabas is mentioned as an example of faith and hope. 1 John 2:19. Barnabas is mentioned as an example of one who has gone on to glory. Father, grandfather, minister, missionary, deacon, elder, author, welcome to our family. View all posts.